Hello everyone. First of all, wish you all a very happy new year. I wish this new year brings happiness to all of us and things only get better and we are able to do everything that we have always wanted to, which has not been frankly the case for the past 2 years. So after season 1, Wheel of Time ended, I was kind of in a fix to figure out what I should watch next. I'm slightly picky about watching television series because they're long and they kind of ask for quite some commitment. So I take time to make my picks. I started watching Witcher. I'm like 3 episodes in, but it's not something which I really feel that I have a lot to say about, but I might finish the whole season and I might share my thoughts about it. When The Mandalorian's first season came, I absolutely loved it. I enjoyed it so much that I can't express enough. And when I got to know that the Book of Boba Fett is also releasing, I did watch the first episode, but it didn't really work for me. So I don't think I'm going to talk about that either. Encanto, the new animated Disney movie, is something which I'm pretty excited about and I plan to watch it, and if I like it, I might share my thoughts about that. So I did finally end up watching Death to 2021 and Don't Look Up, and it was quite a combination which I found very interesting. Now, Death to 2021, just like Death to 2020, is a Netflix special in which they talk about all the important incidents that had taken place that year, and similarly, Death to 2021 is also doing the same. How the pandemic was put under control, what happened after that, the good things happened that year, the bad thing happened that year, and then finally how the pandemic came back and how people were responding to it, how some were responding logically and responsibly while others were just not behaving the way one might want to. They talk about all the real incidents that happened in that year and narrate them in a very sarcastic way. And while Death to 2021 was essentially talking about all the real incidents that took place, Don't Look Up is a fictional account of an imaginary eventuality, but the surprising thing was that the behavior of the people, the way it's depicted in Death to 2021, was pretty similar to what was shown in Don't Look Up. Now, Don't Look Up is a dark comedy. It's the kind of disaster movie which I had not seen before. We have touched this idea of a celestial body which is set on course to collide with Earth and then have major impact and destroy the whole planet and all of that. The strongest examples that come to my mind are Armageddon and Deep Impact. But this film was very different from those because this film does not talk about the heroism or the success or the failure of the efforts that humans make to save themselves and save the world. It was more about the greed, the stupidity, and the selfishness that humans display during the most dangerous and threatening times still. The film starts with this scene where a PhD candidate, Jennifer Lawrence, discovers this comet, and then they start examining and studying that, and then they figure out that that comet will by all means collide with Earth in a time of 6 months and 11 days, if I'm not mistaken. And then they try to bring this whole idea to notice and they take it to the government, and then it just becomes a crazy mad ride there and then after. The first 30 minutes of this film did remind me of an old Hindi film as well, which is called Jaane Bhi Do Yaro, in which two people discover something which they happen to be at a crime scene and they figure out that there has been a murder and they kind of know who the murderer is and they try to bring that whole truth to light and they go to the authorities, but what happens in the end is they themselves kind of get trapped in that and they are the ones who suffer eventually. So the first half hour of this film kind of reminded me of that story as well. It's an old film, Jaane Bhi Do Yaro. I think it came out in 1984 if I'm not mistaken. So if you have a taste for old world cinema, that's one movie that you might want to watch. I think it's a very well made film because it does start with a very simple, casual kind of a tone, and then slowly things start to become serious. And when the film was ending, I was quite invested and I was quite surprised at my involvement with the film because it actually did feel that the world is coming to an end, and a lot of things in the film did seem to be quite apt and point on according to the world that we are living in. It's not a film which tells you where we are headed, it's a film which tells you where we are. And there was no surprise element. Well, there was, because if I start examining the story from a story writing point of view and how the plot should progress and what should happen next, it was not very predictable from that point of view, but it was very predictable if I start mapping the events of the film as in what happens in the story, and then I start comparing what has actually been happening around us in the past few years. Like there was this one particular scene where they bring this whole idea out to people and that we all are in danger and we need to do something. And instead of raising a voice, instead of doing something about it, they just start fighting and a kind of riot situation happens. So these are all very real incidents which have happened lately. And these were the things which actually left me very unsettled and even scared, because I do have started to feel that we as humanity are not really capable of coming together as one and fighting against anything which may be a global threat. For me, what the film said was that at times there are problems and we need to understand them and have our own sense of logic very actively in place, and we can't just keep ignoring those problems, and we can't just say that the higher ups will deal with it, and if they are saying everything is fine, things must be fine. We need to have our own consciousness pretty much alive and maybe force the higher ups to do the right thing, which many times they don't really do. Another strong point for the film for me was how the film showed human behavior in a very balanced and almost accurate way. It's like we care for the bigger picture, but we don't. We like to gossip, but we don't. We hate each other, but we don't. And most importantly, we all are very, very, very emotional beings by the end of it. It very accurately shows us the frivolousness of social media and how it's very easy to get trapped into those negative and quirky situations and just actually become blind to everything that's actually happening. If we watch the film and try to understand all the seriousness that it tries to push, it is comedy, but it's at the bottom of it, it's a satire, and it can become very disturbing and upsetting. So all of us who are not going through a very good time in our personal lives, maybe it's a film which we may not want to watch, but still, if you think you can digest it, I would definitely say this is one of the better films that we have had this year. For me, it was one of the good ones actually that I've seen. If I think of the other films which I enjoyed this year, I think I would list Last Night in Soho. It's not a very thought-provoking film like this one, but still it kept me entertained for as long as it ran. I did also enjoy Luca a lot when I watched it, but I think my list kind of ends there. I can't really recall any other film that I really enjoyed this year. Also, I just learned that the TV adaptation of Anxious People is out on Netflix already. So I think this is the book that I'm going to read next, and then I will definitely watch the show as well. So this is something which I'm really looking forward to. So what have you been watching lately and what have you been reading lately? And if you have any book recommendations or show recommendations, please do share. I'm definitely looking for things to watch next. And that's all for today, guys. Once again, wish you a very happy new year. Keep reading, keep watching, stay healthy, stay safe. Cheers.